Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. This is the 10th day in a row that we have devoted a large portion of this show to Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination. We've done that because this story matters, and not simply because the Supreme Court itself matters. The way Kavanaugh has been treated by Democrats in the Senate, as well as by the media and the left-wing interest groups who obediently do their bidding in concert, gets to the most basic questions about what kind of country we want to live in. Does every American deserve due process? Are the accused presumed innocent rather than guilty? Does fairness still matter in this country? Well, to all of those, we'd answer yes. The left argues no. To them, acquiring power justifies anything. That's the real debate here. We thought you should know that. And now to the day's developments, and there are many. After yesterday's hearings, it seemed that this debate must be drawing to a close. It's hard to imagine watching what Brett Kavanaugh said to the Senate yesterday without feeling profound sympathy. This is a deeply sincere man who believes that his family has been destroyed by false and unsupported allegations. Many wept as they watched him speak. Democrats remained unmoved. Some argued that Kavanaugh's anguish was itself evidence that he is a monster, as if only a sex criminal would recoil at being called a sex criminal.
He did so as both a calendar and a diary. He's a very organized guy, to put it mildly.
Well, that was the wrong soundbite, but you get the point. Barbara Boxer explained today that his anger on stage made her think he was capable of violence. Would you be angry if they said that about you? But no matter what they say, Democrats don't mean any of this personally. They don't hate Kavanaugh or his family. They don't seek to destroy either one. They're just irrelevant. Democrats just want to be in control. So yesterday, they immediately began stalling for time, and they did that by demanding a 7th FBI investigation into Brett Kavanaugh's life. The point was to run out the clock on his nomination. They continued that tactic today at 2 different hearings, and especially in the afternoon when the Senate Judiciary Committee reconvened. Watch this.
I cannot sit here. I cannot participate in what I know history is going to look back as a dark moment again. In the same way we look back at the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas trials, I cannot participate that. To again relegate ourselves to what I believe is a dark, dark element of our society. So with that, sir, I will leave.
Well, that was New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, a man so oily he qualifies as an alternative fuel. Almost nobody who knows Booker takes him seriously, but today he found an ally, surprisingly, among Republicans. That was Jeff Flake of Arizona. Flake had declared that he would be voting for Kavanaugh's nomination. Then he was confronted by a mob of screaming protesters, the youth wing of the Democratic Party. Watch.
You are allowing someone who is unwilling to take responsibility for his own actions to sit in the higher court of the country and to have the role of repairing the harm that has been done in this country to many people. No, thank you. What do you think? You have power. The truth.
Ma'am, do you want to talk to his staff?
No, I want to talk to him. Don't talk to respond. What do you think? To respond. I understand, but tell me, I'm standing right here in front of you. What do you have? Do you think that he's telling the truth? Don't know.
Wow. That man looks afraid and ashamed. You don't often hear senators or see senators look like that. This kind of thing's been happening a lot in Washington. It happened to Ted Cruz. When he found himself surrounded by red guards like these at dinner, he left the restaurant. Jeff Flake crumbled. Flake announced that he would not approve Kavanaugh's nomination without additional FBI investigation. Democrats cheered his change of heart. Quote, I applaud Senator Jeff Flake's decision to rise above the partisan circus on display during this entire process, harumphed West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. Of course, in Washington, when they congratulate you on leaving the partisan circus, chances are you are now the ringmaster of the partisan circus. And, of course, Jeff Flake is exactly that. So what does this mean going forward? Well, factually, it doesn't mean a lot. The FBI does not want this case. There is nothing to investigate here, and they have said that pretty definitively already. Weeks ago, Dianne Feinstein sent them Christine Ford's original letter, and that was their response. This is not a federal criminal investigation. It cannot be. No federal crime has been alleged. Only police in Maryland can conduct an investigation into this, and they're not because, strangely, Christine Ford has never filed charges against Brett Kavanaugh in the jurisdiction where she says this took place. Instead, the FBI will conduct what is called a supplemental investigation. Agents will interview only those directly connected to Christine Ford's original allegation. In this case, that would amount to Christine Ford and Brett Kavanaugh, of course, along with the 3 people Ford says were present when she was attacked in 1982. That would be Mark Judge, P.J. Smith, and Leland Kaiser. The problem is that all 5 of these people have already given sworn testimony. You're aware of what they've said. 4 of them have categorically denied under oath Ford's version of the story. If they deviate from their previous testimony, they could face criminal penalties. So what could we possibly learn from having the FBI interview them? Keep in mind that the FBI makes no judgments in these investigations. It does not assess credibility. It does not render any kind of conclusion. It just does interviews, and then it summarizes them for lawmakers. The FBI, no matter what they're telling you, is not a tiebreaker in this or any other investigation. It's an investigative agency that will provide the Senate with information that senators already have. So Brett Kavanaugh is going to get interviewed again. You'd probably have to get a prostate exam to be more thoroughly vetted than Kavanaugh has been in the last 20 years, and they may try that too. If you were looking for truth, this would be an utterly pointless exercise. You wouldn't consider it. But the truth is not what anyone is looking for here, as you may have figured out. Democrats are hoping that more baseless allegations will emerge during the delay during which the FBI is investigating things that have long been investigated. Perhaps another reptilian porn lawyer will come forward with another discredited client who describes fantasies of, I don't know, gang rape or human sacrifice or child trafficking. Maybe it'll be ritual satanic abuse this time. They haven't tried that one in a while. Who knows what it'll be? But when those charges emerge, Democrats will demand new public hearings on every single one of them. Democracy hangs in the balance, they will tell us, meaning their access to power hangs in the balance. It's not a complicated formula, and everyone in Washington knows exactly what's going on here, except for maybe poor Jeff Flake. People who know Flake say he may actually believe Democrats are acting in good faith, or maybe he's auditioning for a new employer. He's leaving the Senate early next year. Either way, you'd have to be an idiot to think that caving to this demand will induce Democrats to call off their smear campaign against Brett Kavanaugh and his family. They won't. They'll accelerate it. Why wouldn't they? It's working. But there's a cost, especially for Republicans. At this point, Kavanaugh isn't just a Supreme Court nominee. He is a folk hero to many people, an inspiration to millions. People who've spent the last 2 years being browbeaten and bullied by their moral inferiors were buoyed by what he said yesterday. These are people who've been told they are worthless and bigoted. They've been unfairly maligned because they are in the way of other people gaining power. They've been commanded to shut up and obey. Kavanaugh stood up for those people yesterday. He raised a middle finger to their tormentors, and they love him for it. Kavanaugh is far more popular with Republican voters tonight than any single Republican senator, and he's incalculably more popular than the Senate as a whole. Kavanaugh probably wouldn't describe it this way, but he now has a constituency, a powerful one, and they will long remember whether or not Republicans defend him in his moment of need. Shannon Bream hosts Fox News at Night. She's also, of course, our Supreme Court correspondent and the most popular person in the building. She has followed this saga closer than anyone else has, and she joins us tonight. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, we now have this delay over the weekend because Mitch McConnell is not going to go ahead and start with that Saturday vote and get this thing moving. So we've got the delay of the investigation. I've got some folks who think, I think you've talked to people, too, within the FBI. I think they can get this done more quickly than Friday because we have a finite universe of people who could be interviewed, unless we're talking about throwing in the Ramirez and Swetnick allegations.
Is anyone seriously considering doing that?
I think that Ramirez is potentially being considered. I think Swetnick is not falling under what the White House or the Senate Judiciary Committee is calling credible, so it wouldn't fall into this investigation. They can do it quickly. I've also got a friend who is very close to an FBI agent, and she says they're all praying, as you said, that they don't get it. Nobody wants this to fall into their lap, so that they have to handle this investigation. They feel like it's very political.
As a factual matter, have you heard, I mean, taking opinion out of this, have you heard anybody describe what we might learn from interviewing the 5 people at the center of the Ford allegations who've already given sworn testimony?
It's going to be the 302s. We've heard about this before. It's where an agent interviews people, they make a summary of it, and then they will hand them to the Senate Judiciary Committee and say, here are these interviews. Now, unless they don't match exactly with the sworn testimony people have already given, and then they're in trouble because everybody's been giving this under penalty of felony. If they say the exact same things that they have said, and Mark Judge and P.J. Smith and Brett Kavanaugh have all said that they will absolutely cooperate. They've sent out messages through themselves or their lawyers tonight saying, okay, great, we want to talk to you, let's get this done. And I don't know that we're going to find out anything new. If we did, it would be a bombshell, but I think it's going to be almost like having somebody repeat and be a stenographer to the testimony that you just gave and that you heard under oath, and all the other statements we already have.
It's been a tiny fact set from day one. There aren't that many facts.
Or people involved.
Yes, that's true. Shannon Bream, thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Lou Dobbs, of course, hosts Lou Dobbs Tonight on Fox Business, and he joins us tonight. Lou, it strikes me that Brett Kavanaugh is far more popular than any sitting Republican senator right now. Far more popular with Republican voters, the voters that matter to Republicans.
Yeah,
what risks do they run playing along with this tactic, do you think?
I think that Jeff Flake runs no risk because, as you pointed out, he's a lame duck. He found out that he couldn't possibly win a primary in his home state and withdrew. And then on learning that, he's also learning that he's just singularly unpopular, period. What are the risks here? The risks are that the Republican Party is unable to move his confirmation through, and that would be a devastating loss to the nation. Tucker, I truly believe what is going on here, what we are witnessing, is not only the corrosive political corruption of the left and these radical Dems who sit on particularly the Judiciary Committee, but we're watching a tenet of what has become the Democratic Party's most important manifesto. That is to deny American exceptionalism. And the man on that screen is extraordinarily exceptional. He is a man who took us through his life over the course of this hearing. This man stands for all that is good and great about this country. His commitment to his studies, to improving himself, his service to the community. My God, how could you ask for anyone better to sit on the Supreme Court? As a matter of just simple objective analysis. And to watch the Dems, frankly, foam at the mouth and blood drip from their fangs as they rip this man and his family apart. It is obscene what they have done. It is obscene that any Republican would in any way enable and facilitate them in that gruesome, gruesome mission.
If Republicans can't get Brett Kavanaugh onto the court, do they have a hope of ever getting any right of center nominee onto the Supreme Court ever again?
I don't think so. I really don't. And I think it's a great question because it is fundamental to what we're watching. If you cannot, as a nation, turn to your very finest people, those who have worked hard, who've brought themselves through life to personify American exceptionalism, then we are truly lost. And this man and his family and his children, my heart goes out to them. It is not tearing a nation apart. It's destroying a nation. It's not just simply division. This is not about redistribution. This is not about a socialistic view. This is about rewarding effort and excellence and applauding a man's success. To have a child talking about praying for the woman who is bringing charges against her father, to encourage them to pray, to have a career that has, there is not, as the president said, President Trump said, there's not a blemish on this man's record.
Well, he's not a sex criminal. I mean, there are a lot of creepy people in D.C., I would believe, are sex criminals, like a lot of them. And this guy's at the bottom of that. I mean, it's a ludicrous charge. I mean, come on.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Lou.
Great to be with you.